Yo, what's up, guys? Thought I would just make a quick video when I got this idea. Two things that have kept me from learning in the past. Two major things that I've overcome or changed in order to now finally be learning and basically just choose what I want to do. I want to learn this. Do I want to do this? All right, I can do it. First thing is I just had horrible perspective on how long it takes to learn things. I used to think I could just sit down and learn something new that was very difficult and expect to be done in like the same day. Oh, I'm going to learn this all. And I struggle the first day, and maybe I come back tomorrow, probably not. I just give up after one day and be like, oh, too hard, or that was dumb, or like not smart enough, or get frustrated and do something else. Yeah, horrible perspective on how long it takes to learn things. That's probably one of the biggest blockers of learning is thinking it takes like a tiny bit of time to learn something or to get better at something or to master something, let alone master something. You think it's going to take you one day? All right, good luck. Not going to happen. But the flip side is once you start getting really, really good at that stuff and really good at the thing you've been pursuing for weeks, months, years, decades, eventually it does become super fast. You want to learn something new? Boom. Guitar, for example. I used to want to learn, basic pop and rock songs, and I would be like, oh, I can learn that, and I'd try to learn it and be like getting pissed off, frustrated, I can't do it, like why not? And then there it is again. Try to learn it in a day. Dude, it takes days at the minimum. Sometimes it takes weeks. Sometimes it takes months of real consistency to actually make good, solid progress. You can make progress every day. I'm a big believer. You use the right techniques, you can make progress every day, but you need to expand how long you give yourself to learn something. That will radically change everything. If you're like, I'm just going to learn this until I get it, and I'm only going to spend 25 minutes a day, I found that's a perfect amount of time to devote something especially when you're starting out. I'm just going to show up every day, 10, 20, 25 minutes until I learn it. And if it takes, the problem is usually you're really off if you don't know what you're doing. A lot of the times it's way longer than you think it's going to take. Sometimes it's way shorter, but if you think it's going to be long and you set yourself up to be long, you're going to be happy by how long it takes or how short, because it's always going to seem short, Instead of thinking you're going to learn this thing in a day, think you're going to learn this thing in 6 months of daily consistency. And then if you learn it in 2 weeks, you're like, wow, let's go. If you're expecting a day, you're setting yourself up for failure. So expectations on how long it takes to learn things, that was one of the biggest blockers for my ability to learn in the past. Number two is just simply using the wrong techniques and not knowing how to approach things. And so really all learning essentially comes from, this may be a general overgeneralization, but it almost all comes from effortful retrieval. And what is retrieval? It's a type of learning technique where you pull things out of your own head rather than consume things in. So if you're reading a book and you're just reading it, you're consuming. You're watching a video, consuming. You're on a lecture, you're consuming. That almost does nothing for learning. You only learn from videos, books, and lectures once you start thinking about it. After class or during pause the video, or you're just thinking during the video, you kind of zone out, start thinking about it, or you're reading and you're like, oh, that's interesting, and then you tell someone about it. That's when the learning's happening, and that's the retrieval. You're pulling it out of your own brain. So yeah, using the wrong techniques. So I try to use retrieval for everything if I'm trying to learn. Like, this is an example of retrieval. Creating almost anything from scratch, from memory, that's retrieval practice. When I read a book, I read, I take notes on the big ideas. Once I find the big idea, I write it down, read, big idea, read. Okay, break. What did I just read about? What were the big ideas? Retrieval. Next day I come back, do the same thing. What did I read yesterday? Retrieval. Big points. Retrieval right there. And it's very solid. Would I say it's the best? I don't know. I'm sure in a couple months I'll have a better strategy and better technique. But that's just for what they call declarative knowledge, which is language-based learning, conceptual learning. If I'm learning something on guitar, this is a whole nother thing about not using the right techniques. Guitar is much different. It's such a complex thing because it's like, are you trying to memorize something that you can play? Or are you trying to learn something you cannot physically play? Your motor skills, you've not downloaded the chord shapes, you haven't downloaded the techniques or the speed of the motor skills you need to be able to play. Well, that's a whole different thing than if you're just trying to memorize something you can already play. You got to memorize the whole thing. There's a lot of lyrics, there's a lot of chord changes and stuff, but you can play the chords, you can play it. If you look at a sheet, you can play it fine. Then it's just a memorization thing. That's a whole different learning technique than if, oh my gosh, my hands literally cannot play this. I've tried to play this 100 times in a row and I still haven't played it right. That's a whole different thing. And those take two different learning approaches. For the ones where you can't play fast enough or you can't hit the right structure, that's where I think potentially mass practicing, which some people say never do, I think it may be appropriate for certain motor skills where you literally physically cannot play. It might be, I'm experimenting with it just to max out the number of repetitions and errors and correct plays I'm doing. But yeah, not using correct techniques, not even having a strategy going in, just like, I'm going to learn it. Not even understanding what learning is. So yeah, all this to say, if you want to learn things way better than you are right now and you're struggling to learn, set your expectations on a longer time horizon. And 2, use better techniques. And if you want to have better techniques, you don't know learning techniques, you can find simple videos, talk to ChatGPT, simple articles. I recommend books like Make It Stick. It's back there. I'm making a big series on Make It Stick right now, A Mind for Numbers. The course Learning How to Learn on Coursera. There's a lot of resources out there. If you're not familiar with active retrieval or retrieval practice, the testing effect, the generation effect, interleaved practice, varied practice, spaced repetitions, the forgetting curve, if you're not familiar with any of these things, you probably should learn about these things. It doesn't have to be a long time. You just should be able to I can say a sentence about what each of these things is, and you can know how to apply it, and you began experimenting with applying these things into your own learning. These things are the effective techniques. Most of everything else is almost, obsolete, out of date, myth, lore that doesn't really work. Elaborations on there as well. Mind mapping. But yeah, those are just some of the terms you probably should be familiar with if you want to learn, which I don't know why you wouldn't want to learn. Whatever you want to do in life, you can learn how to do it. So if you don't want anything, good on you. If you want anything, you probably should know how to do some of these techniques. There'll be really good uses of time for speeding up learning. Okay, that's it. 2 things that held back my learning in the past. Talk to you guys later.